In 1961, Chevrolet introduced a van that looked nothing like the big American vans people were used to. The Greenbrier was compact, unusual, and built on the same rear-engine Corvair 95 architecture that made Chevrolet's small car so different. It could carry passengers, haul cargo, and maneuver through tight streets without the bulk of a full-size van. For its time, it was a remarkably different approach to the American van. But just a few years later, Chevrolet introduced a completely new van family, and the Greenbrier disappeared from the lineup. So why did Chevrolet move on from this strange little van so quickly? To understand why Chevrolet eventually moved on from the Greenbrier, we first need to understand what it actually was. The Chevrolet Greenbrier was part of the Corvair 95 family, introduced for the 1961 model year. Unlike conventional American vans with front-mounted engines, the Corvair 95 used a rear-mounted air-cooled flat-six engine. That unusual layout helped Chevrolet create a compact vehicle with a low, practical load floor and useful interior space. The Greenbrier was the passenger-oriented model designed to carry people while still retaining the practicality of a commercial vehicle. It was smaller and mechanically different from many of the larger vans emerging from Detroit. And that was precisely the point. Chevrolet wasn't simply shrinking a traditional van. It was taking the Corvair concept and applying it to a different kind of utility vehicle. In the early 1960s, Chevrolet had a good reason to explore a smaller kind of van. American businesses needed practical vehicles for deliveries, service work, and local transportation, without the size and cost of a full-size truck. Families were also beginning to see the appeal of vehicles that could carry more people and cargo without the bulk of a full-size vehicle. Chevrolet already had the compact Corvair, and its rear-engine design gave the company a platform that could be adapted into a family of light commercial vehicles. The Corvair 95 was Chevrolet's answer to that opportunity. The Greenbrier, as its passenger van, offered seating for more people while retaining the compact dimensions and basic engineering of the Corvair 95. It was an unusual approach, but it made sense for Chevrolet at a time when the company was expanding the Corvair concept into new types of vehicles. The Greenbrier wasn't designed to replace every traditional van. It was designed to offer customers a smaller and different alternative. What made the Greenbrier stand out was the engineering behind its compact design. The Corvair 95 architecture placed the air-cooled flat-six engine at the rear, allowing Chevrolet to keep the front of the vehicle short and make efficient use of the space within its relatively compact body. The result was a van that looked and drove differently from the conventional front-engine vans beginning to appear across America. Its low load floor made loading easier, while the available interior space gave the Greenbrier enough versatility to serve as a passenger vehicle as well as a practical hauler. It also offered something larger vans could not easily match, a smaller footprint that was useful in crowded streets and tighter spaces. The Greenbrier wasn't revolutionary in every respect, but it represented a distinctly different approach to the American van. Compact, rear-engined, and built around the idea that useful transportation didn't always have to be large, but the same architecture that made the Greenbrier distinctive also tied it closely to the Corvair 95 platform. The rear-engine Corvair 95 architecture gave Chevrolet a distinctive compact van, but it also tied the Greenbrier to a platform that Chevrolet was ultimately moving away from. By the early 1960s, Chevrolet was developing a different approach to its commercial van business, one that would give the company more flexibility across a wider range of applications. That didn't mean the Greenbrier suddenly became a bad vehicle. Instead, its future was increasingly connected to the future of the Corvair 95 itself. And as Chevrolet's priorities began to shift, continuing with a specialized Corvair-based van became harder to justify. The Greenbrier's story was therefore becoming less about whether the van worked, and more about whether Chevrolet still wanted to build its commercial vehicles around this particular architecture. Then, Chevrolet took an important step in a new direction. For the 1964 model year, the company introduced its G-Series vans, giving Chevrolet a conventional van platform alongside the Corvair 95-based vehicles. This was a significant change in philosophy. The G-Series used a front-engine layout and was designed specifically as a commercial van, giving Chevrolet a broader platform for cargo and passenger applications. At the same time, the Corvair 95 family was nearing the end of its run. This overlap is important because the Greenbrier wasn't simply replaced overnight by the G-Series. Instead, Chevrolet was introducing a new van family while the Corvair 95-based lineup was being phased out. For Chevrolet, the G-Series offered a new foundation for the company's commercial van business, while the Greenbrier represented an earlier experiment built around the Corvair's unusual rear-engine architecture. By 1964, the Greenbrier's future was becoming clear. The Corvair 95-based models had been built around a compact rear-engine architecture, but Chevrolet was now moving its commercial van strategy in a different direction. The introduction of the G-Series gave the company a dedicated front-engine van platform with room for a broader range of commercial applications. As that new lineup arrived, the Corvair 95-based Greenbrier was phased out. Nay, this wasn't simply a case of Chevrolet deciding that the Greenbrier was a failure. Its production run had lasted from 1961 through 1964, and it had served a specific purpose within Chevrolet's lineup. But once the company had committed to a new van architecture, there was less reason to continue developing a separate Corvair-based commercial vehicle. The Greenbrier's disappearance was therefore part of a broader transition, not an overnight collapse. The arrival of the G-Series marked more than just the end of one unusual van. It showed where Chevrolet wanted its commercial vehicle business to go next. The G-Series was built around a conventional front-engine layout and could serve a wide range of customers, from businesses needing cargo space to operators looking for passenger transportation. That gave Chevrolet a broader platform for the growing van market without relying on the Corvair-based architecture. Meanwhile, the Greenbrier remained an interesting example of Chevrolet's earlier approach: compact dimensions, rear-engine packaging, and a close connection to the Corvair family. The two approaches represented different ideas about what a Chevrolet van should be. The Greenbrier explored what was possible with the Corvair 95 platform, while the G-Series established the direction Chevrolet would continue developing. In that sense, the Greenbrier wasn't simply forgotten. It became the end of one chapter in Chevrolet's van story, and the G-Series opened another. So why did Chevrolet kill the Greenbrier? The answer is more complicated than simply saying that buyers rejected it. The Greenbrier was part of the Corvair 95 family, and by 1964, Chevrolet was introducing the new G-Series, while the Corvair 95-based lineup was being phased out. Chevrolet was moving toward a different commercial van architecture, one that offered a broader foundation for future cargo and passenger models. The Greenbrier's unusual rear-engine design made it one of Chevrolet's most distinctive vans of the early 1960s, but its future was tied to a platform Chevrolet was leaving behind. Today, the Greenbrier remains a fascinating example of how different American vans could have been. It wasn't simply a failure. It was an experiment that disappeared as Chevrolet changed direction. Would you have chosen the Greenbrier in 1961,